Welcome to month 5 of the transformation series, Approval and Validation. And what I thought I'd touch on here is why it is that we're all so hooked on this. Okay, where does this need for approval, this need for validation come from? Because it is absolutely insane how this runs us. Okay, so as we discussed in the program, the reason we're pretty much all running around worshiping this God of approval and validation is, of course, due to the way that we're conditioned during our upbringing. Okay, during our childhood, where a few things happen. Number one, we're raised by being punished when we're bad and rewarded when we're good. Number two, we have a very limited perspective on things as a child. And number three, we depend on our parents or whoever is raising us in order to survive. Okay, and because of these three things, we come to the conclusion that approval equals love equals survival, and disapproval equals no love equals risk of abandonment equals death. Okay, where let's just say, we come into this society, there are certain rules, traditions, and guidelines, and we obey those rules, conditions, and guidelines, or rewarded. And we think that when my parents or whoever is raising me is rewarding me, that's when they love me and I'm safe. Survival. And when you break one of those rules or traditions or guidelines, because you don't know any better, you're a kid, whoever's raising you thinks, oh man, I better teach this kid that they fucked up here, or they're going to keep fucking up and they're not going to be able to function in this world. So they punish you. They do the best they can. Bad kid, naughty kid, they might yell at you, but their intentions is so that you learn and so that you survive in this world. But we don't see it that way. Our perspective is very limited. We see yelling, disapproval, and the way that we interpret it is, if they're disapproving of me now, this is them not loving me, and if they don't love me, why would they not just get rid of me? And if they get rid of me, because I'm a kid, I fucking die. So it's extremely traumatic, and we avoid it at all costs. Okay, and approval basically becomes a basic requirement for us. It becomes something that we need in order to survive, like fucking oxygen. That's what happens. We need it to live, and we think that if we lose it, we fucking die. Okay, and this is why we create this split within us, where there's the acceptable you and the unacceptable you. Okay, the acceptable you that gets the approval, that allows you to survive, and the unacceptable you that you must disown, get rid of, or you are fucked. That's why you make the split, okay? And this is when we set out on this path of always trying to get approval, which of course stays with us as we enter adulthood. And here we are, still viewing it like fucking oxygen. Running around desperately chasing and needing approval and validation. Okay, and this is why, as a little side note, being famous or becoming a somebody has such an appeal. Everyone wants to be fucking famous. Why? Because look at all the validation and approval. If you're famous, you are set for life. Look at that, all the approval. You'll never have to worry about being disapproved of ever again. I mean, sure, some people might not like you, but it doesn't matter because look at that reservoir. What's one little person disapproving of you when you have all these people approving of you? That's how you reach safety. That's how you're guaranteed to survive. That's how you achieve unconditional love. And that's what I thought personally growing up. From a young age, I always wanted to be famous. And it wasn't for, oh my God, look at all the money and girls. It was the fucking approval. That's what I was really after. I thought that if I got so much approval, I could finally achieve inner peace. There wouldn't be that worry of getting scraps of approval here and there and trying to maintain it. My reservoir of approval would be full. Okay? But what you have to realize with fame is that it cannot accomplish what is asked of it. And this is something I really recommend reflecting on. What is fame? Objectively, okay, what does it really do? It simply exposes who you are to a lot of people, okay? It exposes who you are on a larger scale, more people see you. That's all that it does. It does not mean that they approve of you. It does not mean that they understand you. It does not mean that they love you. All the fame does is it takes you right now and just blasts you in front of a lot of people. Okay? And as you've probably realized too, with famous people, the world isn't generally kind to them for very long. Something to reflect on. And it's a lot harder to feel any kind of sympathy for, someone who's famous who's hurt. You're never going to look at someone who's famous, who's hurt, where a lot of people are insulting them and writing bad shit about them. Like, oh, poor celebrity. You're like, they're a celebrity. Fuck it. Fuck them. Whatever. So fame, if you really reflect on it, actually makes you more vulnerable, not less vulnerable. And this is why so many celebrities have breakdowns. Almost all celebrities have breakdowns, and why so many of them turn to spirituality in order to cope with all of that. Now, what I really want to touch on here is why this is something you want to let go of. Because with approval and validation, it's easy to think, why the fuck would I want to let go of that? Why would I want to let go of people approving of me? I don't want to be disapproved of. What the fuck are you talking about? And obviously, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying fuck approval, fuck validation, go get disapproved of. Obviously, okay? And I'm not saying that approval in and of itself is bad either. What I'm saying is that you must change your relationship with approval and validation. Okay? It's about changing the place it's coming from, where you're no longer attached to it. You no longer view it as a requirement. Okay? You must let go not of approval, but of your need for approval. Because until you do, here's what's going to happen. And this is really what I want to hammer on. Okay? Number one, it will prevent any kind of authenticity. That need for approval will force you to sell out. It'll force you to compromise who you are. Remember, this is why you create that split during your upbringing. I can only be this. I cannot be this. So you're not being you entirely. You're not being authentic. Because you view it as a basic requirement, you are constantly being inauthentic. And not just in terms of who you are, but in terms of everything. Okay, in terms of what you do, in terms of what you wear, in terms of what you say, in terms of your goals, your dreams, your calling, your purpose, everything. We all are and do what we think we should be and do. Not what we actually are and what we actually feel inspired to do. We all conform. We all live a life of conformism, trying to fit in order to get approval. And this is why it's very hard to feel fulfilled. Because you're not doing what's authentic to you. You're not being who you authentically are. You're always selling out. You're always compromising who you are. Okay? It will prevent any kind of authenticity until you let go of this need for approval. We are not all the same. Okay? We are all equal, but we are not all the same. And because of this, no one can tell you who you should be and what you should do. Only you know what you need. There are no shoulds. Okay? It will also rob you of your freedom. You essentially become a slave to the opinions of others. You depend on it. Okay? They are the masters, you are their fucking slaves, you are their bitch. Because even if you get it, you think that you're set? No, now you're afraid of losing it. And that's the other thing with the celebrity, by the way, is you might get that initial high. So much approval, but now you're even more concerned about it and even more paranoid about losing that. And you are the biggest slave there fucking is. You're a slave to all those people. Never let anyone have control over you like that. Never. Okay? It will also put you in a frozen state where you're blocked, paralyzed. There's always that worry and fear to be, do, or say anything. A huge sign of being hooked on approval and validation is just to look at how self-conscious you are. A lot of us are just neurotic in terms of how self-conscious we are. Always monitoring, filtering who we are through, is this okay? Will this get approval? Will this make me disapproved of? Will this make me lose approval I already got? It's a draining state to be in, where you're always paranoid, always on the defensive, always preoccupied with the way you come off and how people see you, always in performance mode. And lastly, the biggest reason why this is something you must let go of is that it will never, ever give you what you're after. Okay, there is no finish line. This is an endless, painful chase for more. Okay, there's no points where you now have enough approval. It's like eating fucking food. You know, you're hungry, you have a bite, now you want more and more and more. Okay, and the more you have, the more you want. And why is it endless, as a little side note? Because it keeps reinforcing that you're not enough, that you're not complete without it. That's why it's fucking compulsive, because you view it as a basic requirement to be.
It's endless. Why? Because there's still that split inside of you, and you're trying to chase approval, reinforcing you're not good enough to begin with. So you think you'll reach that point where you get enough approval to be good enough, but you can't get there that way, as you saw, or most likely experienced up until now. It's always more, more, more.
So you must let go of this, and the way to let go of this, of course, is to approve of yourself. Okay, it's working on yourself directly by re-owning all of those unacceptable aspects. The more you do, the more whole and complete you will feel, and the less you will need that external approval from others. Okay, the more you approve of yourself, the less you need people to approve of you. Okay, and beyond that, I've added some exercises that complement this in the transformational infield video. So head down and watch that immediately after this. It's a long one. It's a really, really fun and good one. And a last point I just want to mention here, and this is something that helped me tremendously, is realizing just how fickle approval is. You know, and sit down with this, reflect on it too. You know, how fickle it is, how love will so easily turn into hate, and how hate will so easily turn into love. And this was reinforced, I mean, for me, with YouTube. When I started putting out videos and I started reading the comments, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting approval. And I would see, you know, familiar names commenting, and it would literally go from one week to the next, love, hate, love, hate, love, hate. And it would baffle me. You know, I'd put one video out and they're like, yeah, Julian's awesome. And then I might put out a video that's a little bit more serious. And the same person would be like, Julian lost it. Julian's washed up. Julian's weak now. I'd be like, what the fuck? And then I'd put another, you know, more funny one, let's just say, oh, Julian's awesome again. Just back and forth. So fickle. And what you realize is that, okay, and this is big, what people say about you oftentimes has nothing to do with you. It is pure speculation, and even deeper than that, it has everything to do with them. It is them projecting themselves on you. And a great quote from Osho here is that nobody can say anything about you. Whatever people say is about themselves. Okay? And letting this sink in, what you'll realize is that ultimately, no one can or can't approve of you, because they can't fully know you. Whatever their reaction to you is about them projecting onto you. It is about them speculating about who you are.